Hi everyone, it's Will from We Are West Ham. Just a quick one. On tonight's show, there is a little bit more swearing that you'd usually expect to hear on a We Are West Ham podcast episode. So just a little warning now that there is a few F-bombs and swears on the episode. Our fault for not letting the guest know beforehand that we don't like to swear too much on the We Are West Ham podcast. So if it's not your thing, then feel free to skip out the interview and the middle bit that we have with the Ribman tonight. But just a little warning: it's nothing too strenuous, of course. It's still a brilliant show, but just wanted to let everyone know if that's not your thing and it's not what you usually expect to hear from We Are West Ham, then maybe best to sit out the couple of the middle sections this week. But enjoy the show.
Hello there, I'm Tony Gale and you are listening to We Are West Ham podcast.
You are listening to the We Are West Ham podcast with me, Will Pugh, Tom Edwards and James Jones. 2021 is well and truly underway. I think I've left the house twice. I don't know about James and Tom, but it's lovely to be back with the lads talking about people leaving houses or leaving homes. Robert Snodgrass has gone to West Brom and Sebastien Haller, cue the trumpets and the party sounds, has gone to Ajax for a fee believed to be between 20 to 25 million pounds. I tweeted straight after that decision saying what a positive move from West Ham's board. Positive action, cutting their losses, not dwelling on it and burying their heads in the sand and trying to flog a dead horse that was Sebastien Haller. Onwards and upwards, bringing a new striker. And it seems that we've got absolutely no one lined up. So we'll just have Mikel Antonio and his hamstrings to rely on for our push to the Champions League spots for the rest of the season. We beat Stockport County in the Greater Manchester National Park, which is doubled up apparently as a football stadium, the boggiest pitch ever to have seen an FA Cup game in the history of the competition, I believe. Craig Dawson has become our greatest ever centre-back. We said it last week. He's doubled down on it again, leapt like a salmon to put us through to the next round. The FA Cup draw prior to that game has not done us any favours, assuming we get past Doncaster at home in the fourth round. And West Ham have got some new directors. But before all of that, the management team here at the We Are West Ham podcast is still exactly the same. Me, Will Pugh, my friends James Jones and Thomas Edwards. Lads, it is absolutely wonderful to see you. Jonesy, normally we have had hair banter in the past. I sent you a little snap just explaining why I was going to be late for the recording and realised that despite the fact I'm still a few months off of 30 years of age, I look like Ricky Gervais like he does now, a chubby, balding, dark-haired bloke who is, I think he's about 60. So that didn't do me any favours, but luckily I'm looking at you and Tom and you've made me feel a lot better about myself. So James, how are you?
Apart from my hair, it's just, if you're watching on YouTube, like people can see, it's an absolute state. When you sent me that picture earlier, I literally just finished Googling how to cut your hair at home on your own, how to cut your own hair, and I really don't know how I'm going to do it. In the first lockdown, I let Lucy, my wife, do it twice. And the first time I went to the barber went to me, "Oh, dodgy haircut, mate." So I'm not sure I'll be doing that again. But yeah, other than that, I'm all right, thanks, mate. Yeah, a little bit thrown by the whole Haller sale, but we'll go into that.
We will go into that. You've got a new office though,
yeah.
mate.
Yeah, funny enough, I turned my coat cupboard into a little office. So and I've got the West Ham scarf hanging up behind me. I've actually got somewhere to hang up. It just means that no one will be able to see Lucy sort of coming in and out behind me and robbing my house, as Martin Allen thought she was doing a few weeks back. So yeah, no, but it's nice and cosy.
Absolutely. That explains why you've got a little bit brave for digging her out about her haircut, mate, because you've got the door shut and she can't hear you anymore.
Yeah, but the walls are a little bit thin in this flat, so she probably heard me say that, to be fair.
Paper thin walls means James Jones is still in for a hiding at the end of the podcast. Thomas Edwards, not such a concern for you. I know you're having met your missus. You're very friendly to her and in front of her. No such problems for you. Your barnet looks on point as ever. How's things, mate? How are you?
Yeah, all good, thanks. I think you've actually lied to the viewers there. My hair looks awful. And if you're tuning on a YouTube, this isn't an episode of the Undateables, I promise. But yeah, I'm all good, mate. I'm all good. No complaints my end. I mean, yesterday was a bit of a heart stopper at points, but all good, all good. Can't complain. Went for a run earlier, trying to get those legs pumping again, but I'm as unfit as anything is. But here we go.
Yeah, to be fair, mate, that's why I was a few minutes late. I just smashed out 40 minutes on the exercise bike in the conservatory that I bought on eBay to get me through lockdown. And it is the third time I've bought it. I've been on it in the 4 months I've had it. So my exercise regime is going pretty well. And I wouldn't put yourself down about the hair, mate, because you've got that bedraggled chic look. That's your look anyway, isn't it? Put a stony on, ruffle the hair up a bit, and they're falling at your feet. But look, we've got a great show coming up for you tonight. I'll do the housekeeping in a little while because we've got a little bit of an update on the New Year competition that we are running on the We Are West Ham podcast. But coming up on the show tonight, we've got a debutant guest-wise, the Ribman, or Mark Gaveau, as is known to his friends. Most of you all know him as the Ribman. He used to have his stall next to the bowling pub at Upton Park, and he's gone on to huge things since, currently building himself a warehouse at the moment. He's great on Twitter on all things. We'll be speaking to Mark. He'll be joining us for 2, 3 and 4 this evening. We'll talk about the Sebastien Haller sale, Robert Snodgrass's departure, the Stockport win in the FA Cup, the terrible draw that we got, 2 rounds of the FA Cup drawn before we'd played, obviously, Doncaster at home. If we get through that, a trip to either Liverpool or Manchester United. Just our luck. It'll make a nice change to play Manchester United away in the FA Cup. Whoop, not. David Sullivan and David Gold have appointed some new directors to the board. We've been linked with loads of players, as expected. I'm a little bit disappointed on the striker front that nothing has been done so far. I think we need at least one of those, but we'll be chatting about the striker options and any other potential incomings in the team in part 2. Any work permits holding up potential deals because of Brexit, James Jones will be able to tell us a little bit more about that. We asked the We Are West Ham listeners who they want to see brought in up front in our Twitter poll. As always, the Ribman, as I said, is joining us for that. He'll be giving us one of his 3 bet selections for the Betway charity bet section ahead of the Burnley game. We haven't got an opposition view this week. Unfortunately, Burnley are playing Manchester United as this podcast is being recorded ahead of our game with Burnley at the London Stadium on the weekend. I am quizmaster for Name That Game. It's really hotting up now after my emphatic win last week. I'm still bottom of the table on 19 points. Tom just 1 ahead of me on 20. James Jones still out in front, but his lead is getting smaller on 23. We'll wrap up the show as always with the West Ham women's segment, whose game got cancelled again. But some good news. Emily Van Egmond signs permanently. Rachel Daly and Ruby Grant seen their loan spells come to an end. Particularly a shame about Rachel Daly, with a little bit more on the new manager ahead of the girls' game against Tottenham on Saturday at 3 o'clock. Fingers crossed that one goes ahead too. We'll obviously wrap up with a brief Fantasy Premier League update, but nothing has actually happened since our last show, so that won't be too much detail on that one. But as you can tell, absolutely loads to cover. Jonesy will cover it more with the Ribman in part 2, but just quickly, last week beat Stockport, made hard work of it, but to be honest, I'm not buying into the negativity too much because, I think they got into our half all of twice. It was inevitably going to be a hard game, but we got over the line, and not to sound too Sam Allardyce-y, but that's what you want, isn't it? And to be fair, if I was sounding Sam Allardyce and it was the FA Cup, we'd obviously be out already because he does not give a stuff about cup competitions.
Yeah, if Allardyce was in charge, it'd have been our under-16s out there the other night, wouldn't it? He don't care about the FA Cup, but no, I don't get the negativity. I think you just got to take one look at the conditions, and we're playing just a massive puddle for 90 minutes, and it just got progressively deeper as the game went on, which meant that we couldn't play the football that we were trying to play. We were doing all the right things. I think we dominated possession as we were expected to do. We just couldn't move the ball quick enough in the puddle, and that that suited Stockport and, the way that they'd set up. So, good to get the goal. You felt the goal was always going to come from a header, from a cross, because, we just couldn't play with the football on the ground. So, yeah, it's nice to get the win. And Craig Dawson, the greatest centre-back in football in history, absolute worldie of a header. Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to get his name on the back of my shirt. He's a hero.
But just for anyone at home listening who's thinking, that is weird, because if I'm not mistaken, only 2 weeks ago, James Jones was clamouring for Craig Dawson to be released in January. Desperate he was for him to go back to Watford, and all of a sudden he's getting his name printed on the back of his shirt. Tom, I'd say got over the line. We're into the fourth round. That's always nice, but obviously a bit of a weird one before the game, having 2 rounds drawn. Doncaster at home. I was buzzing. I was absolutely delighted. I thought, brilliant. I could tell. I think we had Chelsea and Leicester, left in the draw at the end, and we got drawn out. I thought, here we go. And then my joy was completely short-lived, and I just couldn't believe it. I know West Ham fans joke, and my granddad rang up my dad straight away, and he was like, oh, you knew that was going to happen, didn't you? But it's not even funny. How have we drawn Liverpool or Manchester United away? I don't know about you, but it just sort of, it does really take away from it a bit, I think, knowing the next 2 games that you've got. What was your thoughts on it, just briefly?
No, absolutely. And obviously we all here understand why they've done it. It gives pre-planning, and it allows us to actually make plans and be able to book hotels and whatnot that are needed for it. So I understood it, but absolutely it's deflating when you see Doncaster come out of the hat and your hopes are high, and you think maybe this year's the year we'll have sort of not a walk-in, but a relatively easy run to the quarterfinals, so to speak. But drawing them's a nightmare. But the players obviously probably would have known that before. Maybe they wouldn't have. But the fact that they've come through a really tough, boggy pitch and controlled the entire of the game, let's be honest, they had 2 corners which were taken poorly, and we managed to get through and we managed the game very, very well. Anyone who can't see that's probably lacking a bit of football knowledge, because we've taken control of a very tough game on a small pitch and a boggy getting wet through. And we've done a big job on them, and we scored last minute to go through. So thank God for that. But it makes it worse. But at the same time, we want to be in it. We still can beat United and both Liverpool. We showed that earlier this season. There's still a chance. So for me, you've got to beat anyone to win it anyway. You've got to beat the best sides to win it. So if we do it, why not? If you put Souček in that side, we can hurt anyone from set pieces, from wherever, and we'll still be resolute no matter where we play. So I'm not down and out, but it was a bit of a dampener for sure.
Fair play. Well, look, we'll cover more of that in a little bit. A bit of housekeeping first. Do follow us on Twitter at @WeAre_West Ham. If you don't already, subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can watch back every single one of these episodes, as well as previous interviews we've done. James Jones has cut a few of those up into bite-sized chunks. If you don't want to hear me and the lads droning on either side of the famous person that we have on, then you can just look at the 15-20 minute little segments with plenty of the big names that we've had on over the last 12 to 18 months. Just scroll down to the description of this podcast and you'll find a link to our YouTube. Jones, we've been running a New Year's giveaway, which we launched last week exclusively for listeners to the podcast. It hasn't gone anywhere on social media because we don't want people just seeing it on Twitter and thinking, oh, I'll enter that. We want to reward the people who are listening and listen and download to the We Are West Ham podcast every week. And we love all of you, by the way, for doing that. So we're giving away a free West Ham shirt from this season, home, away or third. The winner gets to pick, and all they had to do, we launched it last week, was leave us a 5-star review on the platform, either iTunes or YouTube. Take a screenshot of it as you were writing it, and as soon as it showed up on those platforms, take a screenshot and email it to us at wearewesthampod@gmail.com. And as soon as the review showed up on the platform, either Apple or YouTube, we'll match it up with the emails that we've had in the inbox, put the names in a hat for the people who had come in with appropriate applications for the competition, and then we'll pick up a winner. But Jonesy, we've had a few emails come through towards the end of the week, haven't we, which haven't they take a bit of a while to bleed through onto the platforms, don't we? So we're going to extend entries until next Friday. So if you haven't entered already and you're thinking, Jesus, I was supposed to do that, that is annoying. Do it right now, because it's a bit unfair on the guys who've emailed entries during the last couple of days, and they haven't quite dropped through on the platforms yet. So obviously we couldn't announce it this week, so we've decided to extend it till Friday. So that's Friday at midnight. And if you get your review up by then, that will definitely have hit the platform by next Monday/Tuesday when we record the pod. So it just gives us enough time to see all the appropriate entries and take the pick. But Jones, we've had a couple of belts review already, haven't we?
Yeah, we've had some absolutely cracking ones. And firstly, thanks to everyone that's got involved in this. It's I was laughing out loud reading a few of these earlier. They haven't been just your normal, oh, this is a great podcast, everyone should listen sort of reviews. They've been pretty personal, but not the way that Phantom Hammer went. Just a little bit tongue in cheek. I've got a personal favourite, and it's a long one, but I'm going to read it out because it's absolutely fantastic. And this one is from Guy Yardley. I presume, he's an Australian. He's based in Adelaide, and he says, "Hi legends, massive fan of the show, been listening for years, and an Australian fan from Adelaide. Would love to get the shirt. You asked for a review, so I've decided to give a review for each of the presenters." And he starts with me, James Jones, big fan of your opinions. Arguably the most honest and calm out of the three. I've always enjoyed listening to you, and I'm looking forward to hearing your voice tonight as me and my partner use it to help us get to sleep. Only kidding. And then he goes on to say that I'm most like Winston Reid. Your dull and semi-sexual tone of voice is what I would imagine the big Reid sounds like if he were to run his own podcast. I mean, I'll take that all day long. I'll absolutely take that.
Dull and sexual.
Dull and sexual. Or semi-sexual, so it's not even full-on sexual. So yeah, I'll take it either way. Then he's got Tom Edwards, my favourite presenter out of the three. Your analytical presence and understanding of the game is something I don't see in any other West Ham-related podcast. Most like Manuel Lanzini.
I'll take it. What a man.
Wildly inconsistent in regards to showing up, but has a vast amount of flair, which is always required in a squad. So yeah, take that, Tom, all day long.
Oh, mate, what a man. What a man. Guy Yardley, I'll buy you a pint next time I see you. Thanks for doing that. Should have paid him more.
But moves on to Will, the main man on the pod, and the lad who is likely to is like the glue which holds it all together. Your ability to make a laugh out of us losing is something to behold, and your passion knows no bounds. Keep up the great work. Most like Mark Noble, been around since the beginning, able to read the game extremely well, and is someone we all respect and trust. Anyways, keep up the great content, boys. Come on, new irons. I mean, if that's not the best review any podcast ever had, I don't know what it is.
I don't know.
Nah, what a belter that was from Guy there. Mark, I was getting all excited there. Tom gets a flair player, and I'm not going to pretend that the ego in me is not going, oh, yeah. No one wants to be Mark Noble over Manuel Lanzini, do they? Everyone wants to be Lanzini.
I've got a player that hasn't played for West Ham for 5 years.
That is true. Yeah, at least me and Tom have been on the pitch this season.
Yeah, we're in. Yeah. We're alive.
Oh, absolutely. Well, that's a belter from Guy. Tom, just before we move on and get the Ribman in, we've had a couple of other nice reviews in this week, haven't we already? So thought we'd read those out.
Yeah, absolutely. John Hillard, who nicknamed Irons86, said, discovered the podcast during the absence of games in COVID lockdown and now a regular listener. Always a great listener, especially enjoyed his special guests such as TC, Craig Forrest, ETC, many, many memories. Great way to keep up to date with all things happening around the club. And then we've had a few quick ones. Sri Lankan Hammer, Isaac Weber said, a great listen to get you through work from home or your one permitted lockdown exercise per day. Keep it up, lads. And then another 5-star review, which came in from David Ogley, who said, excellent pod for all things West Ham. So it's been great, the feedback, and fingers crossed that a few of you get in touch. Hopefully I don't get slagged off. I will be paying Guy again today, so I should expect another good one in the coming week.
Yeah, that was like a dagger to my heart. That was hearing him say Tom's my favourite. I cannot believe it. I cannot believe it. But look, thanks to everyone who's entered so far. Like I say, remember if you get the chance and you wish you'd entered last week, the competition has been extended. So get your reviews in, take a screenshot and email it to us at wearewesthampod@gmail.com. As you can see, we have had all of them in. So thanks to everyone who's entered so far. You've got until Friday night at midnight. That's UK time for anyone listening overseas to get in. And we will, I promise, announce the the winner next week. But that's enough of all of that complimentary, nice stuff and housekeeping. Let's get the show underway as we do every week with part 2. Loads to talk about, and we'll be joined by the Ribman. So you are still listening to the We Are West Ham podcast with me, Will Pugh, Tom Edwards and James Jones. There's some absolutely belting reviews just read out by James Jones there. Still not sure if I'm happy with my Mark Noble tag, but as James pointed out, his comparison hasn't played for West Ham for 5 years, so I'll certainly take it. I'm delighted to say we're joined by a We Are West Ham debutant. It is Mark Javot, but better known to most of you as the Ribman. Mark's brilliant to have you with us. Thanks for joining us. Hopefully you got plenty to say on the plenty that has happened on the club in the last week. But how's things, first of all? For those, everyone probably listening will know you already. As the Ribman from your stall at Upton Park, you're on to far bigger things now, building a new warehouse at the moment and sort of battling your way through COVID. How's it all going?
To be fair, yeah, it's okay. We've kind of adapted, and since losing everything as opposed to markets and West Ham, and we kind of just adapted and went more online with the sources and stuff. So it's been doing very well. We're business-wise, we're up quite a bit on last year. So I've decided now to take advantage of it now and try and build my own little factory. Because, I was never happy with the quality when it was going outsourced to other places. So I want to do it myself and keep the quality there and just, carry on doing what we're doing, but do it on a little bit bigger scale.
Oh, great stuff, mate. Great stuff.
It's all good.
And
all good.
Please do. yeah, exactly. And on the pitch, what have you made of the season so far? It's been a bit of an up and down one, so to speak. But on the whole, I think that the feelings are still pretty positive. I think this month is going to be a huge one. But what have you made of it all on the pitch?
I think we've done okay. I mean, I think David Moyes seems to be getting his head around making substitutions or changes a lot earlier. For me, he was always making a substitute at the end of the game and it was fucking pointless, So, but as a team, we seem to have a lot more about us. We don't seem to be as easy to break down. If we do go a goal in front, I'm not really expecting to go 1-1. If we do, it's unlucky. We seem to have a bit more about us at the end of the day, which is good to see. We've got a bit more fight. We all want to see that. It's been difficult, isn't it? I mean, the Stockport game, we'll talk about that later, innit, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, no, but we will go into that, obviously. I think the main thing for us, we seem to have become far more defensively resolute without us looking like we're managed by Allardyce or Pulis. Like we're harder to beat, but it doesn't look so ugly, which I think is pretty nice to see. But look, Mark's delighted to say that he's joining us for the next 3 sections, so we'll have plenty to go through. As he said, we'll cover the Stockport game in a minute, but the first item on the agenda for part 2 tonight is the Sebastien Haller sale. Needless to say, anyone who listens to the podcast, or certainly has done in the weeks gone past, will be no surprise to those listening that I was delighted to see that news happened. I was quick to tweet about it, and I think I thought a fair play to the club, a positive step to get rid of Haller. I know he was our record signing, 45 million quid, but it hasn't worked. David Moyes obviously doesn't fancy him, and it certainly doesn't look like it's going to work. James Jones is already shaking his head. Jonesy, not so impressed. I did make the very big caveat on the tweet that I sent out that this month is huge, make or break, and is whatever our next move is, who we bring in will be the difference between potentially a European place or another mediocre 12th to 14th place finish. But you already look furious with what I'm saying, which is good because we haven't had a good proper argument for a couple of weeks. So let me have it.
Well, no, I'm thinking about last week when you were like begging me to have a sort of have a row here. So I do disagree with you this week. I mean, I will say I'm not surprised that they sold him. Absolutely, like he needed to be sold. I am a little bit surprised that he went in January rather than next summer. I thought, given the fact that we sold 2 other strikers last summer, we couldn't really afford to lose another striker. My issue with the whole thing is that typical West Ham, they've gone and sold a player without having a replacement lined up, slap bang in the middle of a season. We're now scrambling around.
Because we need to save, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And like we're linked with, if you look at the rumour mill, we're linked with every single striker under the sun. And it's because, I mean, I'd be very surprised if we get anyone soon. It's going to be a deadline day thing for me, I think. And we probably won't get the player that Moyes wants if we get the player that David Sullivan wants. And it's just going to be, it doesn't seem like we've thought this one through. I get that the whole Haller bid probably came in a little bit and caught the club a little bit off guard, and Haller maybe behind the scenes maybe going, look, like, I want to go to Ajax, and I don't blame him for it, but surely you go, hang on, let's just find a replacement first. And now we're stuck with Antonio. Luckily he's fit in time, but we don't know how long for. We might end up relying on either Yarmolenko up front or the young lad that came on against Stockport at the end, or Debecco, who's got no experience whatsoever, and we're back to square one. No striker other than Antonio, who's not an actual striker, by the way. And like we've just gone full circle, haven't we?
I mean,
and it's frustrating that I get that he was going to get sold and he needed to get sold. He didn't fit the system. He was on his way out one way or another. But just get a sort of replacement out first, because, like, come on, it's not hard.
What was the rush though? I don't get. What was the rush?
I think that we'd actually only paid £25 million worth of the £45 million because the majority of was in clauses. So I wonder whether any of that was in getting to a certain amount of Premier League appearances, which he probably would have had by the end of the season or whatnot. But apparently we'd only actually paid £25 million for him as of now. So basically we are recouping his transfer fee as of selling him to Ajax now. So I understand it. I understand it in the sense that we've made money back, but if we don't sign anyone, then it's suicidal, and then we need some serious question marks again. And you know how I feel about the board. Don't even want to get into them. But if we do sell him and we make some money back and we get someone in more fitted to us, I think that's a good move for the club. I really do. As long as we do make that happen.
Well, it's only a good move if they sign a proper replacement this window. It's only a good move if they do it. I mean, I just at the moment, the way, and you know, we all know the club, we all know the way they operate in transfer window.
They're going to try and straight through, man.
Yeah,
They can see that we need how many points now. They're looking at that already, guaranteed. They're not looking for the European finish. They're just looking to stay up. They don't give a fuck. We finish 15th. They don't care. You know, if it means that they haven't got to spend that money, if they knew right now that we'd finish 15th without spending any money, that'd be it. Job done.
Yeah, take it.
Mark, so, you know, because we saw in the summer, right, with Grady D and Garner, and there was absolute uproar after he went. And but to be fair, and they said at the time, we got loads of players in those attacking positions, and everyone who moaned about that has had to eat a little bit of humble pie, because we have played well. Bowen and Fornells have played well. Lanzini and Benrahma have done okay in those attacking midfield roles. We haven't exactly missed D and Garner, but with this one, and you say there, you know, we won't get anyone in. Surely to not get anyone in after selling Haller and to leave the manager with just Antonio, even the most ardent anti-Borders, or even the people who, you know, stick up for the board, surely they're not. Yeah, you know, for want of a better word, not silly enough to do that, because that's just blatant, like a two fingers up to the fans and the manager.
I know that, yeah, of course, but I definitely wouldn't put it past them. I wouldn't put it past them. I really, really wouldn't. And that's it. I mean, they already said there ain't no money, especially for the pandemic. This, whatever, right? And yeah, we just sold Haller for what, 22 million. And they are going to say that they're not earned that money. They're not going to put 22 million pounds back into the club, into a player. No fucking way are they going to spend 22 million pounds now on a player. No way.
You're quite, because this one it would seem like a complete and utter dereliction of duty. And I know, like I say, I know that people who have already got their opinions on the board, and that comes from hard evidence. I'm not sort of suggesting that anyone who thinks the board are or against the board is foolish or anything.
I backed him at the start. I mean, I did. I backed him at the start. I believe the fucking bullshit. I mean, you see it in the film in Iron Man. You know what I mean? It was like I was sucked into it. You know, it was like, yeah, I believe that we could become that club that they were dreaming about. And I was like, yeah, I really fancied it. Man, look what they gave us at the end. You know what I'm saying? It's like, yeah, we're disappointed, we're gutted, you know, and that's how I feel. I feel that they've absolutely taken us for the mugs, and it hurts. You know what I mean? It does hurt, that part of it. But yeah, I'd like to see the football start talking, you know, and start making us feel better about everything. And to be fair, to a certain extent, it has a little bit this season. You know, it hasn't been all doom and gloom. We've seen some good stuff. We see some poor stuff, but it ain't like it was last season or the season before. We seem to be a bit stronger, but on the pitch, not at the club.
No. That's right. I mean, Tom, as far as you're concerned on the Haller situation, I think what I would say to you and James there is, and I know it sounds silly because you know my stance on the club and the way it's run and all of that sort of thing. You know, similar sentiments to Mark. I wrote in my Blowing Bubbles column this month, how it still saddens me to this day that I don't get to go to Upton Park anymore and sit in the East Stand and all that sort of thing. I wrote that this month. So I have those feelings as well. But I do sort of, as James and you were sort of going on there, Tom, there is still how many days have we got left? 18 days left in January. And I know, and I'm more than happy, James, as you're grinning under your hand there, for you to come back to me at the end of the month if we've signed no one and go, look, remember how you were full of juvenile optimism on the 12th of January? But I do think there is still a bit of time left. This episode is too soon to go gung-ho on what the hell have we done. But you seem really nervous about it, Jonesy.
No, was it to me?
Or Tom. No, Tom, sorry, go on.
Go on, Tom.
No, I think I'm actually not that nervy. I think that, like I said, I think the Haller deal's decent. We basically recoup what we paid on a failure. I think if we don't go out and sign someone, then I'm always anti-board. But at the end of the day, and I will come at them. But right now, with, like you say, Will, time's going the window. We're 3 points off top four. We're miles away from relegation zone. All we've got, we're in the FA Cup. All we've got is things to fight for. If we don't make a decision and go after a striker now, then I think it's crippling the club from the media standpoint, from the fan standpoint. It's an absolute decision which will be nothing but bad news for them, and they will see the repercussions of that in a big, big way from many different angles. So I think they're not that stupid. They're stupid and they're sucking us and they're trying to take what they can out of us. But at the end of the day, they're not terribly stupid to make the money they've made. They're not stupid people. So they will go out and I think they will buy a striker because they know that we need to. You can't have one fit striker. You can't have one fit striker left in a Premier League squad when you've got over half the season to play and you've got an FA Cup run to deal with. So ultimately, I believe that the club will go out and spend some money. We've got plenty of time left to go and do it. We've got targets lined up that we've had for a few weeks. So ultimately, I think we will go out there and do it. And like you say, come back in a few weeks. And if we haven't, then I'll be even more aggressive against them as I am usually in January around this time of the year.
Absolutely. It feels to me, and to wheel out one of my famous analogies, it feels to me like we've washed the car at the moment, we've sponged it down and we've got all the worst of it off and we've rinsed it all off, and we're at that stage at the moment where we're either going to rub it down with a chamois leather and it's going to look absolutely pristine at the end of January, or we're just going to walk away and go, no, you know what, I can't be bothered to leather it this week. And we're going to walk away having only done half a job. And all of a sudden, in a couple of days, there's going to be all dried watermarks on it. And you might as well the car in the first place. And in case anyone is struggling with that analogy, what I mean is we've done the first bit, which is get rid of Haller, free up the wages. We've done what that first bit is only a positive move if you do the next good bit after that. Jonesy, we've lost Mark. We'll get Mark back in the next couple of minutes. Have you got anything to add on the Haller? Because we've got a lot to cover just before we move on to Robert Snodgrass's departure.
I don't disagree with the with what Tom's just said. No, I think it was a good deal for the club at the time, but I just don't. They should have known that he wasn't fitting the system, and so therefore they should have been at least been in the process of getting another deal done, or at least in the pipeline, just in case.
Maybe they are.
Well,
we don't know.
Well, I don't believe it. I just don't believe that's the case. So yeah, it's. I'm not frustrated that he's been sold, but I'm frustrated that there's a massive possibility that we could come out of this window with just Antonio as our striker. And as much as he scores goals, you can't rely on him to stay fit for the next 4 or 5 months, can you?
No.
So, but for me, that's the only reason why I'm a little bit frustrated with the whole thing. So why haven't we got another player lined up already? Why haven't you signed someone?
Well, look, calm down. Look, as the glue that holds it, as the glue that holds this podcast together, as Guy told us from Australia. All I'm going to say, I get where you're coming from, but I'm going to ask you. This is a personal request from Will Pugh, host of the We Are West Ham podcast here, Jonesy, to just say, can we just press pause on those feelings until the 1st of February? Because otherwise, you're going to use all our content up for that show if you've already had the moan. And just, it feels, I know people want to slam the board every time, and people feel silly and naive believing anything that comes out of the club these days after what they feel has happened with the London Stadium, as Mark was explaining how he feels there. But can we just press pause on those feelings for now? And if at the end of it, I'm not saying it's definitely going to happen, I've got those concerns as well, but if at the end of the month we've got no one in at all, then we can say fair enough. But just because I do think the process of getting rid of Haller is a good step. It is a good step. I know that he was just useless. There was no point in having him. We might as well put Yarmolenko up front, to be honest, because he was useless other than one overhead kick. So can we, just for now, is it all right with you if we just press pause on that rant of yours until the 1st of February, or our first show in February? And then I promise I'll let you have it for 10 minutes and I won't say a thing.
Yeah, fine. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, look, we're just trying to get Mark back in, but before, as we're trying to do that, Tom, Robert Snodgrass left for West Brom. Really sad to see him go. He was obviously sad as well. It was quite funny seeing the difference in reaction to Snodgrass's departure and Haller's, as they all both happened very close to each other. And I think there we go. We've got him back in.
Can I just say one thing about Haller?
Go on.
I know, we're going about replacing him, but when you watch him play, what are we missing? What are we actually replacing?
Yeah, well, exactly. So he doesn't.
He didn't bring nothing. He didn't bring anything to the team. He didn't bring anything. So I don't actually know what we're replacing. We need a striker.
A second striker. You're getting in a second striker. That's all we need. You're right. Just someone else to be able to play when Antonio can't.
Yeah, definitely.
That is exactly it. I think you missed sort of some of the gold there, Mike. That's what we were saying. It's like, really, we're already, I think we're no worse off, to me. If anything, we've got some more wages to spend, because James was saying he's worried about putting Yarmolenko on instead, but we might as well. He'll be no worse, will he?
He'll chase the ball.
Exactly. I do agree with you, but we'll see what happens. Me and James have agreed to put our argument on hold until the end of January. And if we haven't brought anyone in, then James is free to rant and moan on the 1st of Feb. But Robert Snodgrass left, Tom. Like I say, it was quite funny seeing the difference between the reaction to his departure and Haller's big outpouring of emotion, thanks and gratitude from the fans towards Snodgrass and the club also pretty popular around the club. A bit of an unpopular take, I think, but from my perspective, Tom, very, very sensible bit of business to let him go. He wasn't getting game time. He wasn't really going to be much use to us. Might have played last night and perhaps against Doncaster, but is it worth holding on to him for 2 more games in the season?
I think he gave us a lot as a club. He got slagged off by the owners. He came, it didn't quite work. He got slagged off publicly by the owners, and he came back, and he was actually one of our best players last season, and he worked hard. I mean, looking forward, I'm with you, Will. If we can recoup a bit of money on him rather than let him go on a free, I think it's not a bad deal at all. But one thing about him is you see in all the videos that the social media team release and everyone that he's basically the heartbeat of that dressing room, and he's the guy who makes it all happen and has the spirits high, cracking all the jokes and that. And I think that's something you can't underestimate. Football players are people, and if you're best friends with someone and you see him leave, it's a tough thing, and getting on with that and moving on. Say if you're someone else who comes from Scotland or he's one of your best mates, it's difficult to see someone like that leave when he's obviously the heartbeat of the dressing room. But at the football side of things, he needs to go, and it is their job to get on with it and realise players need to go. So fingers crossed it's a good deal for both sides, because at the end of the day, he was a good player for us. He'll be a good player for West Brom, and we'll probably move on, and it won't harm us too much going forward. So good deal for everyone. I wish nothing but the best for Robert Snodgrass, and appreciate what he did for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's got himself a 3-year deal at West Brom, certainly something he wouldn't have been getting at West Ham. So I think for him as well, he's obviously looking after himself. It makes sense. Were you sort of understand that decision, Mark, or were you sort of same as everyone else?
I mean, I understand it from Snodgrass's view, without a shadow of a doubt. If he's got a 3-year deal at West Brom, like you say, he ain't going to get 3 years at West Ham. He just won't. Fair play to him. He gave everything for West Ham. You know what I mean? He's one of them players that you just want to see, because he will sweat blood and tears for you on that pitch, man. And that's all I want to see. I just want to see that commitment from. If we had his kind of commitment from every single player in the team, we'd be top 4.
Yeah,
but we just don't get it. If Haller was to put in the commitment that Snodgrass put in, he'd be banging in goals left, right, and centre. But when you can't be asked to chase a fucking ball, you ain't going to get a goal, are you?
No, that's exactly it. Jonesy, Stockport, awful conditions, but a strong team, got the job done eventually. For, like you said, thanks for signing of the season, Craig Dawson. I know you're a big fan of him, and you'd be absolutely heartbroken if he left the club, Jonesy. What I say, there has been a little bit of negativity. We covered it a little bit in the intro, but what did you make of that?
As I said in the intro, I don't really get the negativity. You know, I had a Spurs mate texting me about 20 minutes before the end of the game, going, "How's your lot getting on against lower league opposition? Should be bettering them by now." He's obviously having a little dig because obviously they battered a team 5-0. And at first I was like, "Oh yeah, we should be beating these lot." But then you look at it, as I said before, we're playing in a puddle, which means we can't play the football that we wanted to play on the floor. And Stockport were actually quite a good side, particularly defensively, but the footballing side, they're not too bad. But the conditions weren't right for us. It suited Stockport more than it suited us in terms of the style of play. And the goal was always going to come from an aerial threat, and thankfully it came for us. And Craig Dawson, absolute wonder signing. If there's one bit of business they got to do this January, it's make that loan deal permanent. Give the man a 7-year contract like they did with Winston Reid. Give him 7 years. Give him the keys to Newham or something. I don't know. But yeah, no, it's at the end of the day, it's a football match. We won it. We're into the next round of the cup. That's all that matters. I think, you know, like my mate who's a Spurs fan was alluding to the fact that you should be battering these teams all the time. It just doesn't happen in the FA Cup, does it? Doesn't happen.
No, that was a proper FA Cup match. I mean, the conditions proper. And everything. This is what the FA Cup was always about. And it was always, that was the magic. That was the thing. And you never wanted to be the giant killing side who got giant killed, in it, you know? Yeah. We've been there before. I mean, all the talk was about Dowie before the game, wasn't it? So, but yeah. You know what? I've got no complaints about that game at all.
What did you make,
you know, it
Mark?
was a tough game.
What did you make of having the obviously we know the draw before the game, they drew 2 rounds, didn't we? So I was delighted to see we got Doncaster at home, and then whoopee, if we win that, we've got to go to Anfield or Old Trafford. What did you make of all that? Because I was inconsolable after that.
I didn't understand it. I don't know why they did it. Why did they do it like that? I still don't get it. I didn't even bother asking, to be honest with you. But what?
Tom, you can shed a bit of light on that, can't you?
It's because of COVID that basically they've done it so that teams can pre-plan rather than having to make last-minute plans when either to put in place COVID things which they need to happen in order to get to that FA Cup tie. So they've basically done 2 rounds in a row so that teams can plan the hotels in the COVID bubbles where they're going to be and all that before the cup tie that they play. So it makes sense this year.
So hold up. So that means that West Ham are pre-planning a game after the one they win. They have to win, sort of thing.
No, so what? It's weird. It's a weird one, but apparently that's.
Well, we done that. We did that for Birmingham. Remember?
Oh fuck yeah! Come on.
We can't do that as a team. We're shit at doing that. We can't plan shit like that because we lose. We can't do it.
It does seem a little bit peculiar because, like, if they do the draw straight after the games or before the very last game of the tournament, as they often do, and as we saw the other night, it would still give teams a little bit of time. But I guess I still think it's weird the FA Cup's even being played this season, to be quite honest. But look, lots to cover in this round, so we'll move on. James, there's been some new directors appointed at the club. David Sullivan has appointed his partner and his son, Jack Sullivan. There's a couple of others been appointed, I think 4 in total. Can you let anyone who's listening who's not quite sure what's gone on with that, can you and Tom just give us a couple of details on that before we move on?
Yeah, I don't know the full details, and it doesn't. I mean, away from who they actually are to begin with, don't really know what's going on in terms of them appointing new directors. But one of them is Sullivan's partner. The other one is Jacqueline Gold's husband, Jacqueline Gold being the daughter of David Gold. And another one is an acquaintance of David Gold, I believe. I might be wrong there, but I think it's there or thereabouts. All of which have absolutely no idea how to run a football club or even be on a board of a football club. So what they're doing as board of and the board of directors, I don't know. It's a very
like a Trump administration, man.
Yeah, it's a very strange situation. There's a lot of questions being asked, not just by fans, but obviously in the media as well. It's going, why all these changes? Doesn't seem to be anyone there that actually knows what they're doing when it comes to running a football club. So yeah, I don't know what's going on, but there are 3 or 4 new board members, all of which are related to or acquainted to Gold and Sullivan.
Could it have anything to do with like sharing the money out or anything? You know?
I mean, that was my first thought. It sounds like, maybe they're edging nearer a sale and they want to share the money out amongst the family. Potentially, it could be that. It could be right. They're just getting their ducks in a row before they cash in. But we'll have to see. But it just on the face of it, it does seem a little bit strange. But it could be the beginning of the end game for them potentially. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, look. I say still a little bit early to say anything concrete at the moment. And I'll have a word with my dad after the show and see if he can get me on the board of his firm. He is the only director of his company, so I don't think and I know he's not interested in sharing any of the money out with me. So I'm pretty sure that will be I'm pretty sure that'll be a hard no. But Tom, we're hoping to have Kieran Maguire on, football finance expert, on the show perhaps next week. Who will be able to shine a little bit more light on that as the situation develops. 7 minutes left in part 2. We've covered loads already. We've been linked with a few. Jones, I know you don't want to talk about this because you're already determined and certain that West Ham are signing no one. Tom, Luka Jovic, Patson Daka, Adam Hlozek, Milik, Ismail Assar, Eddie Nketiah and Abdallah Sima are the ones that are on our notes. Mark's scowling because it looks like he knows about as many of them as I do.
I think I've called 2 of them.
Luka Jovic, I think there's talks that he's almost Almost certainly Luka Jovic going back to Eintracht Frankfurt. Tom, can you shed any light on those, who they are for those listening, and for me and Mark apparently as well?
So obviously Josh King, I think most Premier League fans will understand that he was at Bournemouth banging goals in. I think he'd actually, if he played for West Ham, in the amount of time he was at Bournemouth and Bournemouth in the Premier League, he'd be our all-time top goal scorer in the Premier League. So we all know about Josh King. Abdullah Sima is a Sparta Prague youngster who's about, I think he's 6'4", 6'5". He's very mobile around the pitch. He scores all types of goals, headers, in behind the striker. He is young. I believe he's 19, under 20. And he's a talented player. And there's rumours that Thomas Souček has actually recommended him to the scout team and to West Ham, as apparently he did with Soufal. So I think that one could be one to watch.
He must be on a kickback. He's on a kickback, isn't he?
Yeah, he's joking. He's the chief scout at West Ham. He's having a laugh, and he's having margaritas in Barbados.
He's our best scout.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and our only one.
Yeah, exactly. Carsten Dacker is part of the Red Bull. I believe he's at Salzburg, and he's another young striker who's got all sorts of his game. He's strong, can go in behind, can come to feet, very technical, and scores again all type of goals. Particularly running in behind and attacking crosses, he's a top player. So those are the two I'd really watch closely, probably the Seamer and Dacker ones, because Dacker, there's a lot of teams who've been interested in. Spurs were even looking at him to be their second striker for Vinicius. Quite a lot of European sides are looking at him in particular, and the whole Red Bull model is shown that they sort of transcend their players to Salzburg, to Leipzig, and then on to bigger European sides. And he's one of the young crop now coming through who looks like he'll be put on that pathway, or put on a pathway to a big European side. So I'd watch out for him, and I'd watch out for Seamer, because they're both exactly the type of strikers we need, who can run channels, get it to feet, go in behind and score goals from crosses with a physical presence. So either of those I'd be happy with, but so is Josh King. So we're looking in the right ballpark this time. It's not like a Seb Haller who's sort of a rose in a thorn bush, do you know what I mean? In so there's a different...
Or a thorn in a rose bush.
Yeah, that'll be it. Yeah, I got it wrong. But you know what I mean? Like someone who actually suits our style of play. All of these lots suit our style of play and can give us that energy up top that Antonio does.
Obviously, James will be absolutely furious if we go out and do a bit of good business and sign a striker that's going to project us to the Champions League this season. Jonesy, we've got 4 minutes left before we wrap up part 2 of the show. And we did ask the We Are West Ham listeners, as we always do every week on Twitter earlier, for their opinion on the hot topic of the week. And this week, it was a straightforward one. Tom put it up. Which striker would you prefer us to sign? Can you let us know the options and what the fans had to say?
Yeah, Josh King, Abdallah Sima, Patson Daka, and the other option was other. We're asking people to comment. Josh King, 12%. Abdallah Sima, just over 17%, and Patson Daka, the landslide winner, was just under 63%. A couple of comments, both of which said Boulaye Dia, who is the starred Ribman striker, who apparently has been in talks with us quite a lot in recent weeks. And if anything, that looks like that's probably more likely than all of them, according to reports. Notice I said according to reports there, because I still don't believe it. But yeah, it's Patson Daka's the runaway one. And I think he's been linked with United, Chelsea, Liverpool, some of the big clubs. But I'm quite intrigued by Abdallah Sima, purely because if Souček's recommended him, then he's got to be good, hasn't he? So I wouldn't mind him. But yeah, the fans seem to want Daka or Dia. Not Ali Dia, it's Boulaye Dia. It's just Ali Dia is the sort of player we'd sign.
Yeah, relation. Well, Yaroslav Tvrdik, who's the Slavia Prague president, will be rubbing his hands together at that. Mark, just quickly, we've got 2 minutes left before we move on to the Betway charity bets. Mark Arnautovic, the rumour seems to have died down now. He a split opinion his whole career. He certainly split opinion when reports were suggesting he might come back. We ran a poll last week, and it was the closest one we've ever run between fans, whether they'd want him back or not. What's your take on Arnautovic, and what did you feel when the stories emerged that he might be coming back this month?
Just felt like, really, again, going back all the time. What are we doing? I don't want him back at the club, man. Really? And people got that such of a short memory. What poison he is in the fucking dressing room. It's like the old thing with Pugh, you know what I mean? No, I don't want him back either. It's like, why do you want that poison in our dressing room? I don't get it. You know, we're trying to build a good team, you know, a strong team, solid. Like, you know, they want to fight for each other. Put him in the dressing room and see what happens.
Yeah,
Just see what happens if you put someone like that back in the dressing room, man. He wasn't even talking to Noble before he left. Seriously?
That's
No.
that's the thing, isn't it? People, it's easy to just think what he was like on the pitch, and you know,
He was great.
Yeah.
I'll never say he weren't a bad player. I loved him as a player. But the moment he did what he did, fuck off. That's it. I'm done. I'm done with you.
There we
It's like
go.
coming over finding your wife in bed with your best mate. No more. It's over.
you wouldn't invite either of them back into your life then?
No, I don't go back. Never go back. Never go back.
I do. I
Why?
like that. I like that. I think I do know what you mean, and I think it's easy for fans to have looked, but it did split fans down the middle. But that is perfect timing and absolutely brilliant. Packed part two. We lost Mark, but we got him back again. Some great opinions there. But stay with us because we'll have the Betway charity bet section. They are back after the FA Cup hiatus last week ahead of the Burnley game on Saturday. We've got a bonus one this week because Mark's getting involved as well. So you are still listening to the We Are West Ham podcast with me, Will Pugh, Tom Edwards, and tonight we're joined with for an extended chat by Mark Javot, the Ribman, as most of you will know him, of course. Covered loads in part two there. Sebastien Haller's departure, Robert Snodgrass leaving, and plenty more on top of that. But now, delighted to say that the Betway charity bets are back. We had a week off last week because obviously the agreement with Chad and the guys at Betway only covers the Premier League games, so we had a breather, chance for us all to take stock and see exactly where we're going to put our £50 charity stake this week in the hope of winning some money for me. I'm playing for the Bobby Moore Cancer Fund. James Jones is playing for the DT38 Dylan Tombides Foundation, and Tom, of course, trying to raise money for Isla's fight. We're doing pretty well so far this season. Betway have agreed to double any winnings that we accumulate at the end of the season, and delighted to say that Chad has agreed that Mark can have a go this week as well. So we've got 200 quid in charity stakes going on the West Ham Burnley game at the London Stadium this weekend. So fingers crossed we can pull some money in. If Mark's bet comes in, the winnings for that will be spread evenly across the three charities that me and the lads are playing for that I've just mentioned just then. So fingers crossed. Jonesy, like I say, no bets last week, but what have you gone for this week? Burnley at home.
I've gone big, very big. I'm looking forward to seeing the odds on this one. It's probably my biggest so far this season. West Ham to win 3-0, correct score. And then Bowen to score any time and Antonio to score any time. So pretty big. I reckon that's probably a close to 100 to 1 shot. I'm looking forward to seeing the price when Chad lets us know later on this week. So yeah, go big or go home, boys.
Absolutely, mate. Just a reminder as well, of course, that anyone listening, or anyone at all, actually, whether you're listening or not, can go on to the Betway app or website before the game. It'll probably be towards the end of the week is when the bets go up, and you can actually back the We Are West Ham bets. So just go onto the pre-built bets section on the Betway website or app, scroll down, and you'll find the We Are West Ham bets. They'll be tagged Will Pugh, James Jones, or Tom Edwards, and this week, of course, it'll be Mark or the Ribman on there as well. So, Mark, what have you gone for on your We Are West Ham podcast debut? What are you backing to try and win some money for us this week?
I'm going to back West Ham 1-0 win. Antonio to score and over 8.5 corners.
Okay, like that. And yeah, you think with only Michael Antonio, our only eligible striker, fingers crossed that the run out.
Just fancy him to bang one in this week, I really do.
Exactly. If anyone's it's going to be him. Thomas, what have you gone for?
I've gone West Ham to win under 2.5 goals in Bowen to score any time. The geezer's just got, apparently his appearances against Everton for Bowen gave him a big pay rise. So I feel like he'll come out and show them why they gave it to him. So fingers crossed, and fingers crossed Mark gets over the line so we all can get a bit of money as well for our charities.
Absolutely, mate. So you fancy a bit of a grim game, do you? Under 2.5 goals, bit of a scrappy one?
I do. I think these 2 months, December and January, tend to see the most scrappy, grim games and just sort of eating the games up and just grinding it out. So I think fingers crossed that happens.
Yeah, fair enough, mate. Fair enough. Well, the odds will come out.
I think he'll be tired as well, you know.
Yeah, that's the thing. The odds will come out, of course, towards the end of the week, and we will put them up on Twitter. Mark, I've gone similar to you. I've gone West Ham to win, Mikel Antonio anytime, and a penalty to be awarded. I fancy playing against Burnley and West Ham. There's going to be a lot of balls going into the box, a lot of balls pinging about, an accidental handball here or there, VAR. Swoop in to give a penalty and carry on ruining football like it's trying to. So, yeah, fingers crossed. I mean, we've all gone pretty positive on a West Ham win. So if Chris Wood rises like a salmon and nods Burnley 1-0 in front after 5 minutes, we'll all be head in hands. But those are the
West Ham way.
Exactly, mate. Those are the charity bets for this week. So I say, fingers crossed, some of those can come in. We can keep on piling on that money. We're into the thousands now for the money we've raised. So we want to keep that going till the end of the season. And just a reminder again that you can back those on the Betway app or website if you want. But stay with us because we'll delve into the Burnley game. We would normally have an opposition view next up, but Burnley are currently playing against Manchester United as we're recording. So understandably, no one available to talk Burnley, but me and the lads will go into it in a little bit more detail next. You are still listening to the We Are West Ham podcast with me, Will Pugh, Tom Edwards and James Jones. And we are joined tonight for an extended chat by the Ribman. It's been brilliant so far. We've covered loads. Mark has had a Betway charity bet this week. So we've got 200 quid riding on the Burnley game in the hope that we can raise some money for our charities. As I explained, unable to get an opposition view on board this week to chat the Burnley. We normally get the guys from the Turfcast podcast to come and have a chat, but they were all watching the game. So can't blame them for that. But Tom, first of all, I'll go to you for the Burnley game. You've said there you're expecting a bit of a scrappy one. It's the kind of game, isn't it, that would make awkward work of it. That's what I'm trying to say in amongst all trying to make an awkward work of this sentence at the moment. But it's the sort of game where the other team will be quite happy with a point. The pressure's on us and they're not going to be pouring men forward that we can exploit on the counter-attack. It has got the hallmarks of a bit of a grim one, isn't it?
Exactly that. And I think if you look at our results this season, we've always struggled against teams who sit deeper, create a smaller space around the box and don't give us that space to run into with our front three running into space and hitting them on the counter-attack. So I think Burnley at home is always a bit of a grim one as well. They beat us last year. They beat us when they were the reason we had that meltdown at home with the owners. I think they've got quite a good record there for a team of their size. And I expect it to be no different. They started to come into their own defensively. They're not shipping goals anymore and they've got a bit more about them. They always come into their own around this time. So I think it'll be a very hard game. I think it's, as much as these fixtures look on paper, look good, I wonder if they're actually hard games for us, like West Brom and Burnley and teams like that. We struggle to break teams down when they sit deep because of our lack of creativity in that midfield, a lack of guile. So I think this will be a tough game, but I do think we have enough. I genuinely think that a bloke like Souček changes us as a team massively in our dynamic. If you have someone like that who can hurt people from set pieces, hurt them from wide, hurt them from crossing the box, we've got a chance. So I do think we'll overcome it, but I think it'll be another grim watch like the Brighton, like the Stockport, like all those games. But I think we'll get it done. But you can't overlook a side like Burnley. They're a very well coached side with good morals in that side. So I expect a tough game.
Yeah, Mark, you've gone for 1-0. You're obviously not expecting a game of wide open, expansive football to be played.
I think to be really tired.
Well,
the game against Stockport, man, that must have took it out. You know, that was running through treacle. You know, they're tough game. Burnley are playing right now. You know, I don't know. I can't see them running 90 minutes up and down. You know, it'll be a bit of a battle, a bit scrappy, but I can't see free-flowing football, to be honest. I can't. I think it's going to be a tough game to watch, and just hopefully, because we have got a little bit more about us this season, hopefully that we won't let any goals in and we might nick one.
You certainly would be surprised to see it end 0-0, would you?
No, I wouldn't. I really wouldn't. I know it, and both teams would be quite happy with that at this stage, you know that. Because, you know, it's a game I don't want to lose. Ain't too bad a draw, is it really? I mean, for them.
Yeah.
We do need to start kicking on. You know, we can't. This is a stage of the season now where we would normally just think, okay, we do only need a few more points. We do take our foot off the gas. You know, it's so disappointing every season. You think we actually got a chance of fighting for sixth place. You know, we really have got a chance this season. And then all of a sudden, we're in the bottom half. It's like, wow. Can we not just go for that sixth place once? You know, that's it.
Well, I'm still clinging on to that hope, Mark, and we'll have that chat at the end of the transfer window, of course. But I'm still clinging on to the hope that we will push on.
Well,
what's that?
We always promised it, weren't we? Let's be honest. Like,
exactly it. That is exactly it. And, that's why I'm still clinging on to that hope.
I mean, I'm old enough to remember it, so you know, I wouldn't mind seeing it again.
No, me neither.
Football, not fucking. What's that? I've forgotten the name of the cup, but you know, that was bullshit we used to play. You know. In the Toto, that was it. Fucking hell.
Yeah, we won that, didn't we? Jonesy, what are you saying then? Sean Dyche's men coming to the London Stadium. What are you saying? You look a little bit pensive, mate. A little bit deep in thought. Just a bit of tactical analysis going on. Is it exactly? You're just about to explain to us all how and why West Ham are going to win 3-0 in line with your Betway charity bet.
No, I've got no tactical analysis. For me, it's just a hunch. I completely agree with what Mark said about both teams are going to be tired, but I think we've got a lot more going forward. Jared Bowen, I know he came off the last 15 minutes against Stockport, so he'll be relatively well rested. So he'll be able to give us a little bit of bite going forward. And I just think that in line with what Mark said again, you know, we've got a huge opportunity here to really push on. And I'd like to see us do it. And I've got a feeling that David Moyes has got that mentality within the squad that, you know, we're not going to fall down the Christmas decorations this season. Obviously, we wouldn't be surprised if we would, if we do. And I just don't think we can afford to this year because of how tight the league is. You know, I'm looking at it now, and there's only 6 points between us and Man United who are winning the league at the moment at the top. It's ridiculous how close it is. So, I just think that at home tie, we have struggled a lot at home against some of the teams down there, and you know, happy just to sit back and try and play for a point. But I think we've got enough to do it, and I think we'll be pleasantly surprised come Saturday evening. I've just got this hunch that we're gonna batter them, and you know, they owe us as well. They've won 4. They've beaten us 4 of the last 5 games, all of which we haven't scored in. So it's about time we return a favour a little bit and stick a few past them instead.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't want to rain on your parade there, Jones. You know, I like the sound of all that. It's nice to hear a little bit of optimism from you. Burnley are holding Man United to a 0-0 draw.
Makes a change, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Yeah, but it's
currently
7
minutes gone. Go on.
Yeah, well, 7 minutes gone in the game.
Mate, you know.
Burnley 0, Manchester United 0. But Burnley 16th in the league at the moment. They've won 3 out of their last 5 games. Only lost 1. They're in reasonably good form. So with that in mind, lads, I know we've had the Betway charity bets, and we've had a couple of correct score lines for a change. But as we always do at the end of the Oppo View section, we'll do score predictions anyway, just to ratify them. So Tom, I'll go to you first. What are you saying? The score, West Ham Burnley on the weekend.
I think we'll just nick it 1-0. I think we'll get there in the end, past the 70th minute. I just think we'll show a bit of quality, which gets it done.
Yeah, I like the thought of that. Jonesy, I assume you're sticking with your 3-0, are you?
I think so. Well, I'm tempted to hedge my bets and go for like 2-1 or something. So even if I don't win my charity bet, at least I got the Oppo View prediction. But no, I'll stick with 3-0. I'll stick with 3-0.
Well, I'm gonna have the 2-1. I think I can't see us stopping them from scoring. They're big and physical. I think we'll have a lot of balls into the box. I think one of them is bound to drop. But yeah, I fancy we'll get 2. So Mark, stick me your 1-0. Or feel free to hedge your bets like Jonesy on the score prediction if you want.
No, definitely 1-0. I don't see. I mean, I hope we're wrong. I hope we do get 3, but I don't know. It's going to be one of them. It's going to be a tough game. I think, like I say, they're playing right now. We played last night, and it was tough, man. You could see it was one of them games where it took it right out of you. It could be a lot. You know, they might not feel it in the first half, but they win the second.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's going to be a tough game. It's Burnley. Let's be honest. Like, you know. Yes, they're one of them teams, aren't they? Always have been for us. Always have been. So, but I think we'll nick it. I do, but only because we're a lot stronger now in defence.
Absolutely. Well, I like your positivity, Mark. Look, before we let you go, it's been brilliant having you with us for the first time, and we definitely hope to have you on again later on in the season. But just before we let you go, and while we've got you, what's your sort of overall looking ahead to the rest of the season? Obviously, you didn't sound particularly optimistic about the transfer window, just like James Jones. But what's your how do you see the rest of the season sort of playing out? Hopefully, we'll speak to you before then. But how do you see it? What's your view on West Ham at the moment, just before we let you go? Some thoughts.
I think if we do get in a decent striker, we've got a chance of actually fighting for a 6th place spot, of actually fighting for that place. I think if they don't bother getting anyone in, we will struggle to stay around mid-table, and that's it. I don't think there's any danger of us going down this season at all, but we've built a really good. We've had a good start. No, it's Christmas, man, and just gone. And like I say, we're 6 points off the lead. No? 6 points off top. It's not a lot, is it? Why can't we just, play well and just keep going and fucking finishing a European place? Man, that'd be lovely. I'd love that. I would. That would make me happy this year.
I think
that would turn last.
That'd be it.
Exactly, and I think that's a brilliant way for Mark to finish on there, because you mentioned it earlier, Mark, the words that I think of all the time, which is "as we were promised." There was a deal, an implicit deal. It wasn't written down anywhere, but there was a deal forged between the club and the fans that when we moved away from our spiritual home and to the new stadium, the deal was that the match-going experience might not be as good and historic and all the things you loved about Upton Park, but the football will be better on the pitch. We, the fans, have had to hold up our end of the bargain because we haven't had any choice. And until now, it hasn't happened on the pitch. So, yeah, as we were promised, this is the season to buckle ourselves up a little bit as a club, make that signing to replace Sebastien Haller and push on to Europe. Mark Javot, the Ribman, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you with us tonight on the We Are West Ham podcast. We hope to have you join us again later on in the season, but everyone else stay with us because we've got Name That Game next. So that was Mark Javot, or the Ribman, joining us there for an extended chat for 3 sections. Mark was with us for, giving his thoughts on all things West Ham. Do follow him on Twitter to track his business. He's going from strength to strength, having a bit of trouble because of COVID, obviously, but building his own factory. And it's good stuff. And Mark there, just as passionate as thousands of West Ham fans are up and down the country and across the world about West Ham doing well. But one thing and one game that all 3 of us are passionate about is Name That Game. It's got really tight. James Jones had an almost insurmountable lead, it seemed, at the top of the leaderboard, and he is still out in front, but after a couple of big defeats to me and Tom in consecutive weeks, his lead has been eaten into. I am still bottom of the league on 19 points. Tom just 1 ahead of me on 20. James Jones out in front on 23. For any first-time listeners, this is Name That Game. Each week, the Quizmaster, who this week is me, picks a West Ham match from history and collates 7 pieces of information about the game, and as they're revealed one by one, and the boys can interject and guess the pieces of information coming up, and for each correct guess you get a point. So no opportunity for me to win any points this week, but fingers crossed the lads James and Tom are going head to head don't make their leads on me any bigger than they already are. Lads, are you ready? Jones, you look a bit tense, Jonesy. All the shoulders have gone up. He's sat up in his seat in his new office. He looks very nervous. Squeaky bum time, is it, James? Because your lead's got so narrow now.
Nah. I'm still very, very confident.
Oh, I didn't like that. Didn't like that suggestion at all. Thomas has got a confident swagger around him. He sees how rattled his opponent is already. Looking forward to this one, Tom.
Never, because you're always up there to get shot down. But it's a chance to claw back at the Jones. So fingers crossed.
Exactly, mate. Well, look, let's have it. Let's get straight into it. So, lads, the obscure fact about this game is the opposition's starting 11 had 9 of their 11 players from the same country and a striker that West Ham would go on to sign. So the next piece of information I'll need from you, if anyone does want to guess, is the scoreline. No guesses from either man. Do either of you want to have a stab in the dark?
I have a stab, 2-0.
Tom Edwards 2-0 is incorrect. James Jones, you can have a crack if you want at the scoreline.
Can you say the obscure facts again, please, mate?
No, I'm afraid not, because Tom's had his guess. That would be an unfair advantage to you. And as you know, I'm a stickler for the rules.
Right, okay. Yeah, completely had me there. I'm going to say 3-1.
3-1 is incorrect, James Jones. The correct score, in fact, was 3-0. So, Tom, very close. So were you there, Jonesy. 3-0 was the correct scoreline. So now you know that piece of information. Are either of you in a position to give me an opposition goal scorer?
None.
Tom, that is incorrect. James Jones throws over to you. Tom's tried to pick up the easy point there, even though there's a replacement fact. When the scoreline is 0. So, Jonesy, your chance. The scoreline was 3-0. Need an opposition goal scorer.
I'm going to complete stab in the dark. Mido
is incorrect, James Jones. Unlucky there. So I'm going to give you all of the opposition goal scorers. There was only 2, and they were Fabio Simplicio and David Di Michele.
Oh, yeah.
So the next piece of information I need is one West Ham goal scorer. I think Tom shouted yes first, so I'm going to throw to you. Tom, a West Ham goal scorer. There, of course, was none, So instead of that, I need the West Ham captain on the day.
Oh, Rio Coca.
Nigel Rio Coca. That is correct, Tom. It's the first point of the evening. Goes to Tom Edwards, and James Jones throws over to you now for the stadium, please. James Jones deep in thought for anyone listening at home. Hand scrunched up against his chin, scratching the stubble.
Upton Park.
Upton Park, James Jones is incorrect. So it throws
I thought
to
so, yeah.
Tom Edwards. James Jones has gone for the points on the floor there, but Upton Park is wrong. So Tom, from you, please, I need the stadium.
I know who it is and I know who it's against, but could I pass and then do the opponent, or is that not allowed?
No, sir. No.
I was gonna go actually, but I had school. I think it's something to do with the Stadio Barbara.
You know what? Tom Edwards, the correct answer is the Stadio Renzo Barbara.
Oh.
So I'm going to give you half a point for that,
I think,
Tom Edwards. That is a great shout there. So Tom, you can have a half point for that. That isn't usually in the rules, but the Stadio Renzo Barbera. James Jones, Tom Edwards is actually no, sorry, Jonesy, you went first on the stadium. So this one is Tom Edwards' shout again. Tom, the opponent, please.
Palermo.
That is correct. So Tom Edwards with a 2.5-0 lead at the moment over James Jones. Jonesy, to claw back some form of dignity, I need the season from you, please.
I'm not sure about that scoring, but I'll go for it. 2015-16.
No. Wildly incorrect, Tom.
Oh no, 5 and 6. 5 and 6.
Absolutely not. I'm afraid I'm going to have to take your first answer. It's huge drama in the Jones household. Tom Edwards.
I believe it was 06-07 because we got it through the FA Cup.
That is the correct answer.
Yeah.
So James Jones even got it wrong on his second corrective guess. It wasn't 05-06. It wasn't 16-17. James Jones has had an absolute mare there. Thomas Edwards, correct from you there. It was 2006, 2007. James Jones, you've had a shocker there, but you're quibbling my scoring at the moment. You're frowning. Your hands are going through your hair.
It was my turn to guess for the opponent, but you gave it to Tom to guess instead.
No, you guess the stadium first, mate.
That is true.
We alternated, don't we?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You went first for the previous one, so it was Tom's turn to go first.
But then Tom had a go, and then it was my go again.
Yeah, because that's what I'm saying. You alternate who goes first.
Nah, I'm not having it.
Nah.
But well done, Tom, because you would have won anyway, so it's fair enough.
I know what you mean, but
to make it easier for you, if you want, you can nick the hard point away from me, and I can just get the turn.
No, it's fine because you even said to Tom, went, "Oh, can I pass this one and guess the next one?" And you went, "No."
Yeah,
that was because it was my go next, and he would have had my point.
I don't know. I mean, I'll have a steward's review at the end of the podcast to double check, and we will correct any scores next week, of course. However, I do think, Jonesy, after suggesting that West Ham played Palermo in 2016-17, that if any week you deserved 0 points, it is this week.
In my defence, my brain was like, I can't believe he's not letting me guess that one. That was my go. Completely threw me. Just an absolute mare, absolute nightmare.
You've had a shocker there. And the worst thing was, or the best thing was from my perspective, that as you were desperately trying to correct yourself, you were going, no, it was 05-06, which was also wrong. So look, we'll have a steward's inquiry at the end of the episode when the edit's being done to double check the scores, and they will be corrected ahead of next week. But either way, whatever way you look at it, James Jones has had a stinker there. But stay with us because we'll wrap up the show with the last segment. Next coming up is the West Ham women. you are listening to the We Are West Ham podcast with me, Will Pugh, James Jones and Tom Edwards. We had Mark Javot, the Ribman, joining us tonight. Contentious drama in Name That Game just then. James Jones having an absolute meltdown. There will be a steward's inquiry. Discussions were ongoing in the break between the two sections. We will have to look into it, of course, but an absolute stinker of a performance from the reigning champ, or it could be former reigning champ James Jones. Depends what happens with the score inquiry after this week's episode. But we're wrapping up the show. That is almost it from me and the lads for this week. Great to have Mark Javot join us earlier on, and we wrap up, of course, as ever, with the West Ham women's section, and they haven't played again. Another COVID cancellation, widespread condemnation of lots of the WSL players who went abroad over the Christmas break, despite it being against government guidelines. It's caused some friction within the game amongst other players as well, who had to stay at home away from their families. We had Isabel Barker, WSL expert from the Sun newspaper and friend of the show on last week, talking about it as well. But despite the fact there was no game, our new manager Ollie Harder still waiting to take charge of his first West Ham women's game, because of course that game away at Manchester City was postponed. Could be a blessing in disguise, because the general consensus was we were going to get an absolute whipping up at City. However, silver linings, Emily Van Egmond has signed permanently. She was only on a 6-month loan deal. The Australian, she's been great for West Ham this season. She signed a deal with the Hammers, but Rachel Daly and Ruby Grant have both ended their loans and gone back to their respective clubs. Rachel Daly gone back to the Houston Dash in the MLS, and I'll be quite honest, I think if I had a choice at the moment between training and playing in London or in Houston, Texas, then you would be catching me on the other side of the Atlantic at the moment, that is for sure. But it's Tottenham at home. Fingers crossed that one goes ahead. It'd be the girls' first game for around a month, I believe. Tottenham at home on Sunday, scheduled in 3:00 kickoff. The win would take the girls above Spurs in the WSL, but Tottenham are on form, unbeaten in 4 games. The girls are still 10th, 5 points above Bristol City still. Jones, I mean, where do you start, really? Another cancellation. The general sort of reaction to all the COVID stuff was people saying, you know, this is the first time that women's footballers, as opposed to men, have alienated themselves to the public by going away, breaking rules, thinking the rules don't apply to them. Isabel was quite reserved on the matter last week when we were talking about Alicia Lehmann's trip to the Maldives, but there's some Arsenal players, Leicester players, who also went away to trips to Dubai and the Middle East over Christmas. And obviously we've seen a cancellation. Gilly Flaherty, West Ham captain, has been really vocal about it, saying people need to take responsibility, etc. What have you made of the whole palaver, should we say?
Yeah, it is a palaver. I mean, both the women and the men's side of the sport haven't really helped themselves. But at the same time, I mean, not everyone within the game on both sides are catching it. Are those that are going out and going abroad and flouting the rules? You know, people are catching this thing regardless of whether they're flying to Dubai for a couple of weeks or not. So to solely blame the situation that the men's game and the women's game are in at the moment purely on those that are flouting the rules, I think is a little bit naive, because you don't just get COVID if you decide to flout the rules. You know, there's plenty of people that are just catching it, popping to the shops to get their essential items. But at the same time, you know, this is elite sport. It's elite sport for the women as well, and it's disappointing to see some players not, you know, taking a bit of responsibility. They're in the limelight, you know, they're public figures. They're the ones that we should be setting the standards to those that think that, you know, that they're above COVID and, you know, they can go and do what they want because
COVID deniers like you.
COVID deniers, or they're not in an age group that think that that it affects to a certain extent. And these are supposed to be role models, and it's disappointing to see that a lot of players, or a handful of players, have flattered the rules and decided that the rules don't really apply to them for whatever reason. So yeah, we're in the situation we're in now, where games are being called off almost every week, and en masse, and we're the team West Ham women haven't played for weeks now, because you had the winter break in between, and yeah, it's just a little bit frustrating. But there's not a lot we can do, and not a lot that the sport can do, because even if they just stopped players from leaving the training ground, I guarantee people will still catch it, because it's not just a disease that people catch if they break the rules. Everyone's catching it.
Absolutely, that is the nature of it, mate. But yeah, obviously the West Ham game at City cancelled. Tom, not a lot to add on what Jonesy said there, really. Just fingers crossed. I think obviously the women are blessed in that there's less games to try and cram in, so there is more wriggle room in the calendar. I'm sure a few of the men's players and managers particularly would have been grateful of a winter break like the girls have managed to have. Looking ahead to that Tottenham game then Sunday, Tom, do you think that the absence that they've had, is that going to help, or do you think it's been such a long time now that, obviously they've had time to work with the new manager, but do you think, God, it could have had, it's too long without actual match practice and that fitness that comes with games?
I think that will absolutely be a factor in terms of having match sharpness. Just playing, we've all played at whatever level we all play to. Having sharpness and playing games.
Go on, and Tom, tell us what level you played at.
Oh, semi-pro, yeah, that'll be it. AFC Geese League Honour boys, but no, I do think that having a bit of match sharpness means a lot, and it is different to training, and I think the girls will struggle. I think the quality of football in general in WSL will struggle as a result, and I think football in general in this whole thing going forward, irrespective of West Ham's women football, men's and women, has a big point to play and a big part to play in society in the next few months and year, or however long this goes on, because it gives people something to look forward to. It gives them hope, and it gives them something to aspire to be and get out there and want to do what those guys are doing on the pitch. So I think if the girls can come back and buy into what Ollie Harder's actually given them on the training pitch, I think it could be a good layoff. But I think there's no denying the overall quality in the WSL will fall and will fail as a result of having such a long time off. But the girls are professional footballers and a very talented group of players, so they will hit the ground running eventually. But any professional athlete or anyone who hasn't done what they're supposedly good at for a few months will struggle to hit the ground running. So I don't expect to see liquid football, but definitely expect to see a team who's willing to fight for a new manager and can, fingers crossed, get a result against the arch enemy.
Yeah, absolutely, Matt. I think, we saw after Matt left, the performances did notably improve after Matt Beard's departure. So fingers crossed they managed to carry that into the new year, albeit with a big long break there. Jonesy, obviously some moving and shaking in the transfer market, more so in the women's team, in fact, than there has in the men's. But two departures, just like the men's team, Rachel Daly and Ruby Grant loans coming to an end, but Emily Van Egmond signing permanently. I think that Van Egmond signing is fantastic. Do you think the positive outweighs the negative there, or you think it's an even one? What do you think?
Well, losing Rachel Daly is a big blow to begin with. Just a huge player, 5 goals and 4 assists in 12 appearances. So already lost a massive outlet in terms of goals and creativity. But it is then outweighed by the fact that Van Egmond made a loan deal permanent, and she's also a massive player. 3 goals in 9 games for her, and she's a very, very important member of the team, and it's really good that they've managed to keep her at the club. But I still think just losing Rachel Daly and what she brought to the team in terms of an attacking outlet, and the goal contributions that she gave the team in that first half of the season, they're going to miss that massively. So it's whether the other players can then step up and fill that void. And I think Ollie Harder's got a bit of a job in his hands already to try and find that player and find plug that gap in terms of attacking outlet, because it's a big miss.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like there's business to be done on both sides of the West Ham coin at the moment, the men's and women's. I think certainly that Rachel Daly, if we can replace her, I think that's important, isn't it? I think agree with what you say, James. You know, we haven't exactly been great at the back this season, but if we're even more blunt up front, that's only going to spell a downward spiral as far as the table goes. But yeah, fingers crossed the game does go ahead this weekend. Been a long layoff for the girls, big one against Spurs, of course, and it'll be good to see Ollie Harder have his first game in charge. But that, lads, is pretty much it. I'll tell you what, this week, just to be a bit different, we'll roll straight into the outro because nothing has happened on the Fantasy Premier League, which is brilliant actually, because all the positivity that I forced you all to bleat out about my performance last week means that still stands. I'm currently leading our little three-way group, 1,024 points. Jonesy, you are bottom on 882. Tom just ahead of you on 896. There's a short little game week this week, isn't there? Just five games being played, or the ones tonight. In fact, I'll be keen to see how my team is getting on when we log off from here before a load of double game weeks the week coming up after that. So it's going to be some moving and shaking in the Fantasy Premier League world. Rudy Eagling still top of the We Are West Ham Listener League on 1,121 points. If you want to join that and you haven't already, the code is all lowercase CNY60, the letter U. So feel free to join in with that. I'm 19th out of all of our listeners. James is 267th and Tom is 239th. And just a reminder to everyone about the New Year giveaway that we're doing. We're giving away a replica shirt from one of this season's shirts to one of our We Are West Ham podcast listeners. We haven't put it anywhere on social media, so the only people who can get involved and play are you guys who download and listen to the podcast every week. We love you all. Just wanted to do a little something to say thanks at the beginning of the year, so you can win a West Ham shirt. All you have to do is leave us a 5-star review on either iTunes or Apple Podcasts or YouTube. Take a screenshot of you writing the review and send it to us at wearewesthampod@gmail.com. And when the email comes through and the review pulls through on the platform that you've left it on, we'll put all of the eligible entries into a hat, and we will pick a winner that will be announced on next week's podcast now. And the new deadline, we've had to extend it just to ensure we can collate all of the winners, all of the entries, properly. The new deadline is Friday at midnight, and that's UK time. So get your entries in to us at wearewesthampod@gmail.com. by then to be in with a chance of winning a West Ham shirt from this season. Well, lads, that is it. Follow us on Twitter, of course, everyone, at @weare_West Ham. We are on Instagram as well, and we're on YouTube. If you want to watch this show, the Ribman Mark Javot was on tonight. Just scroll down to the podcast description and you'll find a link to our YouTube channel. Go and subscribe to us there as well, because we will have some more video content for you over the coming weeks, as well as the full shows. We'll have little snippets, favourite bits, and especially the interviews we've had with old players. So Jonesy, it's been a brilliant show tonight. Actually, I've really enjoyed it. Absolutely packed full of content, laughs. Me and you had an argument like the old days, which is absolutely lovely. Any final thoughts before we sign off for another week on the We Are West Ham podcast?
No, good episode. Lots to cover. Feels like even though there wasn't a winter break, it felt like it was a winter break. There's not a lot happened for a couple of weeks. I don't know if it's because of the FA Cup as well, but lots going on. Transfer window, ramping up, loads of rumours going around of players that will never sign, and West Ham in the next round of the Cup. So all good. Very positive going into this weekend against Burnley.
Absolutely, mate. Thomas, sum up the show for us. Your thoughts as we say goodbye for another week.
No, quality. Yeah, really enjoyed it tonight. It's nice to get another fellow West Ham fan on and just sort of chat rubbish about the club and enjoy it all together. So, no, absolutely enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to this week. I think it'll be a really tough game. I really do. I think it's that time of the season where you can't expect free-flowing football. It'll be a bit drab, but we are that team at the minute who is the stereotypical hard team to beat. So fingers crossed it suits us and we end up nicking it. Long may this relatively successful winning patch continue. And I think this will be a good month for the podcast. And fingers crossed West Ham, because we'll have a lot to talk about the window and plenty of games to chat and chew the fat of. So fingers crossed, onwards and upwards, and come on West Ham.
Absolutely, mate. Wonderful final thoughts. Well, look, West Ham said au revoir to Sebastien Haller. We said see ya to Snoddy. We managed to escape from Stockport's boggy ground with a 1-0 win to progress through to the next round of the FA Cup, where we face Doncaster. And the reward for beating them will be a trip to either Liverpool or Manchester United. And let's hope that the Hammers can escape the burn against Sean Dyche's Burnley on the weekend. Thanks very much for joining us once again. Thanks to our guest, the Ribman, tonight. Keep the faith, everyone. Up the Hammers, and we'll see you next week.